is, hey there, Facebook. Thank you so much. Let me get on with all of the other platforms. Welcome, welcome. We are continuing our series about NPD, also known as narcissistic personality disorder. Narcissistic personality disorder. We are sensitive here at Surrett Pierre Enterprises not to make reference to people who may or may not have been diagnosed with our um, suspicions or playful um, disrespect or disregard. So we want to make sure that we are mindful not to say certain things, whether they're founded or unfounded. We don't want to follow the trends out here where everybody seems to think it's okay to jokingly say someone is acting narcissistic or acting as if they were a narcissist, whether they may be or not. We wouldn't want anyone making reference to any of our frailties or any of our ailments, whether mental or physical, right? If we were sick in our body, right, we wouldn't want people to call us by that name. We don't want people to make those types of references. So I'm Surrett Pierre. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am someone who studied, researched, and when I say studied, I mean not in school, or I am not one who has a license to practice or anything like that clinically as it relates to psychotherapy. Nothing like that. Nothing, although I was a social work major and a psychologist or psychology minor, or vice versa. So, social work minor, psychology major in college. I've always been very interested in this type of thing. And so I serve clients here in my uh, boutique consulting firm, where most of the work that I do is online, and I enjoy it much. I enjoy it much. But again, my name is Surrett Pierre. I am, among many things, I'm a bonus mom and a daughter and sister, of course, and a wife. But when it comes to my livelihood or my career as a small business owner, I am a cleansing specialist, a certified cleansing specialist practitioner. Okay, and I am a certified personal life coach. I like to coin myself as a soul coach because I'm a healing evangelist. So, what I have been entrusted to do by God is to win souls. So, as you can imagine, I'm all about people. I'm all about, being the voice of reason, even as a young girl, always fighting for the underdog, always been an upstander, one who is unbiased and non judgmental, and an advocate, always been one who looked at all sides of a thing. My perspective has always been what's right versus what's wrong, right? Which kind of lines up or does line up with the scriptures that tell us to love what God loves and hate what God hates, right? So I've always enjoyed being just that, voice of reason, truth. I never really liked when people were truth breakers, right? Or backbiters or talebearers, because you're hurting, one of your own, one of God's other creations when we do that, right? And we are to love God with all our heart, mind, body, and soul, and love our neighbor as we love ourselves. And so, as we love ourselves means that any heart wounds, right? Any woundedness, any type of brokenness that we have had in life coming from trauma and different events in our past must be reconciled. And so the ministry of reconciliation is very near and dear to me. I'm a repairer of the breach and a restorer, right? So, as being those things, a reconciler as well, it is important to me that we uproot, pluck out, and overthrow all those impediments, right, in us from childhood. We have to do the work. And so, in doing the work, I've done some research over the past 20 plus years of different things that I personally have found as it relates to narcissism, right? And how I help my clients heal, whether they are dealing with a narcissistic coworker, parent, child, or lover, or if they themselves might be exhibiting some types of narcissistic traits, okay, characteristics, modalities, and the like. And you can go back to my 6 previous episodes as we are journeying forward on this topic. It may be a while before we get off of this topic because it's so many levels to narcissists, right? And narcissism. So the last time we were together, we talked about 33 things that narcissists say and what they really mean. And it was by Angie Atkinson. Go back and listen to that. That was episode 7. So while we have been journeying together on this topic, we talked about negging, gaslighting. We talked about stonewalling. We talked about the Darvo method. We've talked about, let's see if I can remember. There's been so many different things. But just go back, listen, and hopefully you'll find something that's helpful there. And if you want to suggest certain types of things that we, dig into, I don't mind doing a deep dive by subject matter. Just email me at Sarettepierre.com. That's Sarette at SarettePierre.com. So we're going to go ahead and start here where we I want to kind of talk about um, things narcissists say. It's a continuation of what we talked about before, and stay on till the end. So much has happened since the last time I was on, and I want to share it with you. I have something that I stand behind, that I feel because of what it does as it relates to mental health. I want you to know all about it. Okay, so today I want to look at something that Kristen Milstead wrote and talks about things narcissists say to give themselves away. Okay, so this time we're looking at things that they say to give themselves away. So she goes on to say that some of the things narcissists say can raise eyebrows. Okay, those things might come in grand verbal speeches or spoken in bite sized comments mumbled under the breath. Either way, when heard, something seems out of place, but you might not always know why. Now, let me put a pin right there because we might have people who are tuning in for the first time. So, we're going to just give a brief definition of what narcissists are. Now, they have an inflated sense of self. So they're very self obsessed, self absorbed, and not always the way you think. Not, just image as it relates to how they look and how often they post and how many selfies. And sometimes that's just good marketing, okay? Trying to get that engagement and follow the ever changing algorithm. And if you want people to be in front of what you have, your business or something you're promoting, you have to advertise. Okay. So think of it like commercials. Okay. And so that doesn't necessarily make a person think that they're full of themselves, because a narcissist is very, very, um, they're broken so much that they have very low self-esteem, very low self-imaging, self-worth. Okay. And so we don't want to mix them up with someone who's just confident about what they are offering. They offer, what they have packaged up, right, as a service or a product, and they being confident enough to market it. Okay. So a narcissist is someone in love with himself or herself, a person full of egoism and pride, one who shows extreme love and admiration for himself or herself. Now, as we go into what it means to be self centered in this regard, it's very extreme. Okay, so the pendulum is swung all the way over to the opposite direction on the spectrum because psychologists seem to think or say, statistically, I don't believe this, but they say that we're all on the narcissistic spectrum. Okay, so this gives you more of an idea of a narcissism personality style. It's characterized as having an excessive preoccupation with oneself or one's own needs, often at the expense of others. Now, that's a better way of putting it because they lack empathy and are so inconsiderate. It's like the most inconsiderate you ever seen, the most selfishness you've ever seen. Um, yeah, so that would give you a better idea of just looking at what you and your first thought might be when you hear being in love with themselves. And that's why you can't go on, if you think somebody is haughty or conceited, because a real narcissist think so bad of themselves, but they have learned through what seems like a universal language to come across differently. Okay. Um, so I just wanted to give you an idea as Webster and Merriam, actually, Webster, it says it's an individual showing symptoms of or suffering from narcissism, such as an extremely self centered person who has an exaggerated sense of self importance, a person who is overly concerned with his or her physical appearance. They desire to elicit admiration and praise, especially from potential romantic partners, often makes them charming and charismatic, traits that can rapidly ignite a romance. But their motive is far from it. Okay, so let's go back to talking about things narcissists say to give themselves away. I'm going to start from the top, and this is by Kristen Milstead. So she goes on to write some of the things narcissists say can raise eyebrows. Those things might come in grand verbal speeches or spoken in bite sized comments mumbled under the breath. Either way, when heard, something seems out of place, but you might not always know why. Often, what they say has another meaning because they have ulterior motives or they're attempting to manipulate behind the scenes. Narcissistic people can sometimes give themselves away over time when you keep communicating with them. It's not just that they talk about themselves a lot, as the stereotype would suggest. It's that there is an inability to connect with them, or they say things that indicate they aren't processing events emotionally the way one would expect. For example, they say something that doesn't match their actions. Okay? So if they say something that doesn't match their actions. Hold 1 second. They say something that does not match their actions. Okay? Their emotions don't match what they're talking about. They may be full of rage about something that seems ordinary or say very dramatic things robotically. They say things about others or you that are highly unempathetic or cruel, and it's hard to believe anyone would seriously say such things and mean them. Their responses to your questions can be diversionary and nonsensical. They change the subject, which leads conversations to go completely off the rails, and you end up exhausted or forgetting what you brought up. They flip things around when they're accused of something so that they are the victims and never seem to take responsibility for anything. Now, in episode 1, I said a phrase or a quote where Narcissists, they want to be treated as kings or queens, but they have the accountability of a toddler. Okay? A toddler. Now, we know statistically so that males, there are more males who are diagnosed narcissists than females. So she goes on to say, what makes these tactics begin to look narcissistic is their repeated use over a long period of them. Maybe you realize that almost every conversation you have with this person ends with the feeling that something is wrong. It could be that there is something dishonest about your conversation with them. Maybe they won't let you interact with them on equal ground, or they're not really listening to you and never take responsibility for anything. Perhaps they're always saying rude or gossipy things about other people and expecting you to go along with it. Below are a series of common things narcissists say. Most of these are comments narcissists might say in romantic relationships, which or with each common phrase below, I've also included the underlining meaning. So then she goes into things narcissists say to keep you around. These phrases may seem so emotional and romantic at first. After a while, however, they may begin to seem mechanical. Okay, here's an example. Tell me what I can do to show you how much I love you. Okay, what they are really meaning, right, is tell me how I can make you fall in love with me so then you'll do whatever I want you to do. Okay. So when they say things like, we have a special connection, no couple out there loves each other as much as we do. What they really mean is, I want you to believe that you'll never find anyone else who loves you like I do, so you'll never leave. Then I can keep getting what I want and need from you while not having to abide by the expectations of a normal relationship. When they say things like, I've never loved anyone like this before, you're the love of my life. What they really mean is because of their motives and never sincere, right? Because of their inability to love and have empathy for anybody other than they wanting empathy for themselves at all costs, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, without fail, at the expense of everybody else, no matter who, no matter what your role is in their lives. So they'll say things like, after, you know, a big blow up, one of many, you should hear some of the things that my clients have endured, right? Or I have witnessed. They'll say things like, after, bawling their eyes out, never taking responsibility for their actions, even um, in bawling their eyes out. It's more on the lines of, you don't have to leave me though, you know, just because we're not agreeing, you don't have to leave me. Instead of saying, I'm sorry, I've done wrong, I've done you wrong, I've disrespected you, I was wrong, I've hurt you. Um, None of that. They just, go straight into, you don't have to leave me. You can stay. We can work it out. You don't have to go. Then they'll say things like, let's start a new relationship. What that means is, I want you to immediately stop talking about all of the bad things I've done to you as if they never happened. But at the same time, I want all of the trust back you used to give me without having to earn it back. Okay? Listen to that. They want, right? They want to immediately stop talking about all of the bad things. That means they're never being accountable for anything, never taking ownership for anything. When I say anything, it's like on steroids, someone always having an answer for everything, never telling the real truth, never taking any responsibility for their part in something. Never, never. I mean, never. Okay. This isn't like, hit or miss, some relationships where you might see that. This is never, guys. I'm telling you. Okay. That's the difference. Never. Okay. And so they'll say things to you like, I never lied to you about my love for you, okay, as they intently look in your eyes. That what they really mean is, I really did love the way you made me feel about myself. You made me feel like I was special. When you found out about all of the horrible things I did to you, though, you made me feel ashamed about myself, and I hate you for that. I was able to do those bad things to you because I wasn't really you. I wasn't really you that I love. Let me say this up. I was able to do those bad things to you because it wasn't really you that I love. So I hope you understand that. Okay, it wasn't. They either had a new supply, which they always constantly getting new supplies to, impress very quickly and try to sweep off their feet. That's why it's almost inevitable that a narcissist is not one who is faithful. They almost always are involved in infidelity. Okay, so that's why you heard her write just that. Okay, I'm sorry. Um, I was able to do those bad things, and I did them to you because it wasn't really you that I love. So I hope you understand that. Okay, so it's like a backhanded comment, right? Which is usually under their breath, which is just in itself, not a good characteristic to have, and not integrity. They'll say stuff like, I don't know why, but I keep coming back to you. Okay, what that means is, as long as you keep giving me attention, love, adoration, sex, affection, and acceptance, and anything else I want and need, I'll keep coming around and I'll never let you move on. Okay, so it has nothing to do with love, it has nothing to do with respect. Hold on a second. Okay, all right. They'll say, I've changed for you. I did more for you than I ever did for any other girlfriend. Okay. What they really mean is 2 weeks went by and I didn't talk to any other girls, and you still don't trust me again yet. It also means I also brought you gifts and dinner. Remember we talking about love bombing and guilt trips? Okay. So they'll say what they really mean when they say they've changed for you, and they did more for you than anybody else that they've dated or been with. It really means I also brought you gifts and dinner. I've never done that for any other girl, and you're so ungrateful. See how they turn it around, right? And they make you the victim. Remember, never ever take responsibility for something you saw them do. You have the proof that they did it. You were there. Somebody screenshotted it to you, brought you the proof, put you on three-way so you could hear them in the background, and they'll say that wasn't me. Okay? And then they'll flip it on you and say, you're ungrateful after everything they do for you. So yeah, they might say I've changed for you and I did more for you than any other girlfriend. But what that really means is, why is it always about you? You don't do anything for me. What a waste. I should have just spent that 2 weeks talking to girls anyway, since you don't appreciate me. In fact, I'm going to start right now. Okay? So they're blaming you for their cheating and their not having any boundaries. Okay, almost always they have no boundaries. Even if you've set them and made your expectations very clear about your non-negotiables, about things that you will not accept at all in anyone at any point in any time, they will cross those boundaries. And if you don't find out that they've done it, they'll never admit to it. They'll never take responsibility when you find out they've crossed those boundaries. And they'll even go as far as say things like, or what they mean when they say they changed for you and they've done more for you than any other person they've been with. What they mean is, why is it always about you? You don't do anything for me, right? And if that is so true, and they've already given you reason over and over to believe that they appreciate you worshiping them, and you don't even see it as worship, you just see it as respect, or coming together as one if you're married. or submitting, okay? And they'll use it against you at every turn. And then when you catch them in a lie, compulsive, pathologically so, um, especially ones that are diagnosed and are not in constant therapy, okay, and working on finding tools and resources to manage their narcissism. They'll say stuff like, again, you've caught them in the act or anything. You have the proof. They have said to you it wasn't them. I don't have a mole under my right eye. You have the picture of them in the bed with someone else, and they'll say, that my calves are much smaller than that. And then when you start packing, they'll say, please give me one more chance. Don't leave. Now that's wasted words because they could have said, I'm so sorry. You're right. You caught me. I'm wrong. I don't know how to, you know, make this up to you. I understand if you never want to, get back together. Um, I'm caught, I'm wrong. Nothing like that. They'll just cry really long and big crocodile tears as they say and ask and beg for you to give them one more chance. And they'll promise to treat you like a queen. They'll remind you of the things that they do that are usually very slight, and how they have always regarded you highly. But you, in your heart, know they never really have, right? You've never been in such a, whether it's co-worker, boss relationship, where you're always trying to figure out what just happened. Your head is always spinning. You're constantly doubting yourself and what happened and how it happened. You remember everything else when dealing with everybody else. You know it by detail, but some strange reason you can't always pinpoint your recall about something that they twisted. Right? They took it and they did it so cunningly, and how they were so calculative, with a straight face, right? That you're starting to ask yourself, well, did I go back out there to the car last night and get that out, or did I call this person? Because he's right. I don't remember getting out of bed. But before you talked to them, you said, I remember, I went up, I got up and I went to the car in the middle of the night. That's why you heard the alarm. But by the time they, you know, tear you down and tell you didn't go out there and the alarm didn't go off, you're starting to think, well, did the alarm go off? Or maybe I dreamt that? Because again, as I've told you, they'll always make you set you out to be the one that is crazy, that is imagining things. You must have dreamt it. There's no way that could happen. How much sense does that make? Things of that sort. So, in parting, they'll say things like, you know, after they begged you over and over to give them another chance, and fake, fake, um, what do you call it? Fake promises to treat you any differently. What they're really saying is, please let me come back to get more of your attention and love. I couldn't find anyone who gave it to me as well as you in the time I was gone, and I really needed it. As long as you don't talk about anything I did, we can go back to the way things used to be where you worship me. Okay? They'll say things out as this: I will always love you and be here for you no matter what. What they really mean by that is, anytime you want to call me up and let me come back in and rip your heart out again, let me know and I will, if it's convenient. If they say I will always love you and be here for you no matter what that really means is, I'll get narcissistic supply. That means the new person that they, or persons that they are seeking attention from, generally sleeping with or dating, whether married to you or not. So they'll say, I'll get narcissistic supply out of your attention for sure, right? Meaning you were once my narcissistic supply, almost as a liken to a what are the people that live off blood? I don't believe this is demonic in nature, but what are the ones, Christy, help me, that come out at night and vampires? Okay, so after they suck you dry and they see you are kind of onto them, and you're finding out ways to shut them down, and you're saying things like I taught you before, walking away and saying, if you're going to try to manipulate me today, I am stopping talking to you. I'm walking away. After you've done that enough times, and they're really on to spending as much time with that narcissistic supply. And if you ever hear them again say, I will always love you and be here for you no matter what, that means what they really are saying, one of three things that they're saying is, I'll give you some crumbs for your trouble, but just know, however, that I will never ever give up my ways and give you an equal partnership or even tell you the truth. Okay? There's a such thing called the Ultimate Narcissistic Dictionary. Go Google it, look at it. It has some good stuff. And I think that I'm going to stop for right now, and we'll start back um, the next time I come on with things that narcissists say in an argument, things that narcissists say in an argument. We've kind of been breaking this down starting from the last episode, I think episode 7, because this is episode 8. And what I did then, I began with Angie Atkinson's 33 things narcissists say and what they really mean. But I asked you to come on and stay on because I wanted to share with you something that had changed since we were on together the last time. And what I like about what I'm getting ready to share with you is that although I told you that I believe God has and will heal anything, right? I want you to understand that even in our obedience to God, even in our knowing our birthright and knowing, what He has said about His biblical laws and kingdom principles and statutes and the covenant that He has made with us, if you operate in things like unforgiveness, or if you um, don't obey what God has told you and you're not in right standing with Him, and you are not living an upright life, then there's really nothing that I could tell you um, in Christ that will last. And so, even when you look at narcissism from a standpoint of the person on the other side of the diagnosis, or the person who's diagnosed with it, you have to be prayerful. You have to be led by the Spirit, and you have to believe God and what He shows you. You have to still love. As I said, here we are not ever going to ingest or follow the trend of just haphazardly calling people narcissistic or narcissists. That is so very insensitive. It's not loving at all. Even if they are diagnosed as such, that's not something that we would want anyone to do to us, right? We don't want people to call us by our frailties. As I said, it's very, it's cruel. It's not nice. Even if you don't understand everything, which better supports why you shouldn't do it. That's why I'm here to kind of help with what my research has shown me. Um, but really, I want you to look at something that, again, I just happened since we talked last to embark upon, and that is the original noni juice, Noni. It is something that we brought back to North America, having partnered with a company called Partner.co out of Utah. And the reason why I'm bringing that up because of the mental implications of this very healthy organic um, juice. Okay, it is something that was out in the mid to late 90s into the mid 2000s. The same formulation is what the nephew at Partner.co bought from his uncle, the original inventor of it. The same proprietary blend is what we offer at Partner.co. And so you can go back, and I'll give you a couple of websites, go back on previous posts and look at the things that it helps do, like prevent and protect against cancer and alleviate symptoms of arthritis. But for the purpose of this, I don't want to go into, fighting heart disease and strengthening the immune system. I want to talk about how it helps with mental illnesses and mental health issues, such as, although these are no medical claims, so don't think that this is the disclaimer. There are no medical claims here. And this is in no way a purpose to or intent to diagnose or to suggest any type of treatment. However, on a naturopathic um, journey where you look at, things in herbs and nature and things of that. Not only does noni help control ADHD, where it's helpful for this condition in both children and adults, um, and what it does is the ability to modulate the production of some of the chemicals in the brain, as well as increase overall cellular health in the brain. Okay. It helps with addictions. Okay. Which is good. Anything from heroin to caffeine. And just like PTSD, I'm sure that the statistics show that because most people who have mental illnesses don't like the way that certain medications make them feel. And so they may couple those things with several certain types of addictions, whether it's cigarette smoke and vaping or something like, opioids and things of that nature. So the noni juice would be helpful in treating both sides, the mental health side and the addictions. Um, in addition to protecting against strokes and lowering your cholesterol, it actually helps with increased memory. So, noni, the original that is, may be used by the brain to encode long term memory and enhance blood flow to the brain. Okay, now this is from Dr. Neil Solomon, MD, PhD. Now look at that combination, medical doctor and a PhD doctor. So I'm going to give you just a few sites that you can go to, and then I'm going to give you just a few more of the benefits of the original noni, um, as I have talked about in some of my previous post, okay? And what it's doing is helping in such a holistic way, okay? Now, if you want to go to Noni History, nonihistory.com, very great information there. You'll find that includes mental health, what the Noni juice will do to those who have mental health issues. And I want to go and give you an idea of just a few more things that it will do as it relates to um, the mind or mental health. Um, and although I can't get my hands on the breakdown right now of what it does, just trust me. And if you go to that website I named, you'll see for yourself all of the benefits that the Tahitian noni juice, the original proprietary blend now at partner.co, could do in stabilizing and bringing healing to any mental illness and why. And so I just wanted to leave you with that. Again, I've been talking about this for now 8 episodes. And again, I've studied, when I say studied as a novice, studied as one who knew that I was called to be a prophetic evangelist, having always been very passionate about people, always loving people as a young girl, always seeing people as my peers, my equal, a part of God's great creation, then not being much differences, but more similarities. So I had a heart for people, always, jumping in people's fights, and going for the underdog, and, always standing up to power, if you will, being a truth bearer and um, a truth teller. And so I've always been what many call bold. And, again, it could be the worst situation. And I would stand up for anyone who was voiceless or anyone being or maltreated at any time, whether it was a gang or whether it was in school by the teacher or the other students. And so I say all that to say that once I accepted the call on my life, and the mantle of an evangelist, who, of course, that office or the working of an evangelist is totally about souls, which is people. I started looking into certain things that I was noticing back about 20 plus years ago. And that brought me to my journey of just knowing enough about narcissism, NPD, narcissistic personality disorder, to be able to serve my clients, to be able to cast out demons, to be able to, lay my hands on the sick and watch God, cause them to recover. But if I didn't know, how to integrate the mental with the spiritual, through doing my due diligence and looking at this plight, then, I might not have been as effective. And so, again, I am not in any way, treating or diagnosing anyone. I'm not, a psychotherapist or psychologist. I don't have any degrees in, those types of clinical works. However, I'm very passionate about being able to know as much as I can about many different things, so that in my small consulting services business, where I, again, am a healing evangelist, a public speaker, a certified personal and licensed personal coach, known as a soul coach, and I'm known as the Freedom Igniter, and a cleansing specialist practitioner, certified. These are just some of the things that I help my clients to walk through, on both sides, of course, of this particular mental health issue. On the side, again, of them being the victim, if you will. I hate to use that word, but them being, let's say, the one who was a part of the abuse. Remember, we talked about there being so many types of abuse. Narcissistic abuse is one, and it is such a mental, emotional roller coaster that it probably would be what would be closest to domestic abuse, as far as the detriment on the psyche, okay, or just how much it can inflict a person. Let me say it that way. And so that's all I have for now. Get you some noni juice. Those who just want to improve their health overall, we did change the taste. If you remember, about 15, 20 years ago, it was much better than it is now. I'd love to hear your testimonies. My link for all that I've talked about, how to book a consultation with me here at Surrett Pierre Enterprises, how to get a digital download free, and become a part of my tribe, and go ahead and download the motivational message there. Or if you want to get noni juice, all of the links are right down below and in the description. So thank you so much for tuning in. I know it was late. I'm excited that I made the time, having come in from an engagement with my family, to come back on and continue the episodic topic of MPD. Go ahead and believe God that just as He's healed all, you know, for all manner of disease, that He can heal you from anything. So whose report will you believe? I don't know about you, but I only believe the report of the Lord. Until next time, Saret Pierre signing off. Thank you so much for your time. And go ahead and follow me if you're not already. And yes, go ahead and set your notifications for the next time.